Hello mathematicians, and welcome to this video on finding a percent of a quantity. In real life we use percents every day. You see percents advertised in stores, you see percents on your phones with telling you how much battery life you have. We're going to talk about what percents are and then how we can find a percent of a quantity. And a percent of a quantity is just a percent of a number. That's all it is. So let's find out what a percent exactly is. A percent is a rate per 100. That means it tells you some number for every 100, if the 100 were the whole. So normally you'll see percents, and they're written like this. Say you have 45%. This is the percent symbol. If you look at it, you'll notice that it kind of looks and indicates to you what number it's telling you. This slash right here could be the 1, and these two zeros are the 100. So this is 45 out of 100. So 45 for every 100. If somebody tells you they're asking you for 25%, they're asking you for 25 out of every 100. Written as a fraction, it looks like this: 25 for every 100, or 25 out of every 100. 45% would look like this: 45 hundredths. So whatever the percent is, whatever the number is, will always be put over 100 because it's saying some number for every 100. One more example here. 20% would be, can you say it before I write it? 20 hundredths. And as you notice, we can simplify this fraction if we want. So 25% is really what number can go into both 20 and 100. Both 20 can go into both of these numbers. So I'm going to divide 20 hundredths by 20 twentieths, and 20 divided by 20 is 1, and 100 divided by 20 is 5. So really, when you're finding 1/5 of, when you're finding 25% of something, you're really finding 1/5 of whatever that number is. So you're dividing that number by 5 and taking one of those parts. Now, what number can go into both 25 and 100? Well, 25 can go into both 25 and 100. So I'm going to create an equivalent fraction, and 25 divided by 25 is 1, and 100 divided by 25 is 4. So really, when you're finding 25% of something, you're really finding 1/4 of whatever that number is. So you're dividing that number by 4 and taking one of those parts. Now that you know what a percent is, let's apply it in some practice problems. So you're being asked, what is 25% of 60? There are two ways that you could do this. The first way, if you're finding a percent of a quantity, is to know that the word of means to multiply. So we know that 25% means 25 for every 100. And we can multiply that by 60. Now, you would multiply this as normal, taking a fraction of a number. And you know that 25 hundredths is also 1/4, so you could simplify that. And now you're finding 1/4 of 60. So when you take 60 and divide it by 4, you get 15. And you want one of those, or 60/4, which is equal to 15. It's equal to 15. So 25% of 60 is 15. However, because we use ratio tables a lot in math to show relationships between numbers, and especially when you're dealing with rates, I'm going to use a ratio table to solve this. Before I do that, though, I also want to let you know that 25% isn't the whole. The whole would be 100%, 100 hundredths, and 100 hundredths would be 1. So 25% is the actual rate that we're dealing with. So I'm going to put part, whole, and then the percent, which is also known as our rate. So 25% is going to be our rate for every 100. And then of 60. 60 in this case is the whole. I'm finding 25% of the whole. So 60 is our whole. I'm trying to find the part. I'm going to make a ratio table, and I'm going to make one of the columns read part and the other column read whole. Now I'm going to write the rate, which is the percent, rate per 100, and 25% is 25 parts out of 100 whole, out of 100 parts that make up the whole. And then I'm going to put my whole right here of 60. And the question is, because I'm trying to find out what is the part, trying to find out this number right here, I have to go in this direction. I have to move from whole to part. What do I have to multiply 100 by to get to to get to 25? Well, I could either do one of two things. I could multiply it by 25 hundredths. And if you're asking how I'm getting this, I'm going from a bigger number to a smaller number. The only number that works here is a number that's less than 1. And so using both 25 and 100, the only fraction that I can make that's less than 1 is 25 hundredths. And so that's what I multiply 100 by to get 25. Because 100 divided by 100 is 1, and then 1 times 25 is 25. So that's how I get 25. So I'm going to multiply the same 60 by the same constant factor. And we know that 25 hundredths is also 1/4. And we already found what 1/4 times 60 was. 1/4 times 60, we said, was 15. So we know that the part is 15. So 25% of 60 is 15. So we're going to use a ratio table to solve these. Alright, Cool Treats sold 120 milkshakes today. So far I know that it sold 120 milkshakes today. 40% of the milkshakes, so this is part of the milkshakes, were strawberry flavored. How many milkshakes, I'm underlining the question, how many strawberry milkshakes did Cool Treats sell? Okay, so I'm going to make my chart here, my chart of part, whole, and percent, which is my rate. Okay, and they sold 120 milkshakes today. That's the whole. If you're wondering how that's the whole, when I read the problem, it said 40% of the milkshakes that were sold today, were strawberry flavored. So the part is going to represent the strawberry flavored. So let me just put straw here so you know it's strawberry. And 40% of the whole were strawberry. So I'm trying to find out how many strawberry milkshakes Cool Treats sold. I'm going to make my table. I'm going to put my part here. My part in this case is going to be strawberry milkshakes. I'm going to put straw for short, and my whole. Alright, now I'm going to always put my rate right here. My rate is a rate per 100, and the percent is 40, so it's going to be 40 parts out of 100 parts. And the whole in this case is 120. I'm trying to find this missing value right here, which is the part that is strawberries. Now let's just look at these numbers for a second, because I also want you to be able to look at a table and know what answers are going to make sense. The whole in this case is 100, and the part is 40. But 120 isn't a rate per 100, it's a rate per 120. Because 120 is more than 100, the answer to whatever the part is here for the amount of strawberry milkshakes is going to have to be more than 40. Just wanted you to see that relationship so you can begin to understand how to look at numbers and tell whether answers are going to make sense and be able to identify what the answer should be. Okay, so I'm going from 100 to 40. What do I have to multiply that by? I have to multiply it by a number that's less than 1 because I'm getting a result that's less than what I started with. So therefore, I'm going to multiply it by 40 hundredths. 40 hundredths is the only number that I can multiply 100 by that's less than 1. I can't multiply it by 140ths because that's more than 1. The numerator is greater than the denominator. So therefore, I'm also going to multiply 120 by this same constant factor right here, which is 40 hundredths. And 40 hundredths can be simplified to 2/5 because both 20 can go into both of these numbers. So if I wanted to do the work more simply, I would do 120 times 2/5. And when I do that, 120 times 2, anytime you have double digits, you always want to show your work off to the side. That's 240. And 240 is going to be divided by 5. Essentially, you can put this over 1 if you'd like. But know that 120 is 100 wholes. So now 240 is going to be divided by 5. And when you do that, you get 48. Now, does that mix with what we spoke about earlier? We said that whatever the answer was had to be more than 40 because 120 is more than 100. Yes, it does. And so that's how we find a percent of a quantity. And as you notice, it's really just dealing with rates. Try this next one on your own and pause the video to see if you get it correct. Alright, now that you're back, let's see what this problem is all about. Kevin's hiking 220 miles from one point of a mountain to another point. He has completed 31% of the trip. How many miles has Kevin hiked so far? So he's completed 31% of the trip. Is that the whole trip? Is that 100% of the trip? No. So therefore, he's completed part of the trip. How many miles has Kevin hiked so far? Therefore, we are finding the part. So we have the part that he's hiked, the whole, and the percent, which is the rate. The rate is 31%, 31 for every 100, and the whole is 220 miles. We want to find the part of the whole that he's hiked. So we're going to make our table, part, whole. We're going to write the rate first, the percent, which is 31 for every 100. And our whole is 220. Now let's just look at this for a second. 100, 31 for every 100. We're trying to find our part. So we're going in this direction. Look here. 220 is more than double 100. So therefore the answer should be more than double 31. And doubling 31 is 62. So the answer should be more than 62. If it's not more than 62, our answer is incorrect. Okay, let's do some calculating here. I'm trying to go from 100 to 31. What do I have to do? What I have to multiply 100 by to get to 31? Well, a number smaller than 1, which is 31 hundredths. So I'm going to do the same thing to 220. And 31 hundredths cannot simplify, so I'm just going to do the multiplication out. 220 times 31. Make it neat over here. It's 220, and then I get 6 1,820. And then this is all divided by 100. Now, according to your place value, whenever you divide a number by 100, you're moving the decimal point to the left in the number. So I'm going to write this number down, 6820, and I'm going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. The answer to this is more than 62 like we said it should be. The answer is 68.2 miles. So how many miles has Kevin hiked so far? Kevin's hiked 68.2 miles. Now, you should get used to seeing a lot of numbers that aren't always whole numbers, because most numbers in real life are not whole numbers. If you go to an actual mountain and look at the miles that are posted on signs, you'll notice that a lot of them do include mixed numbers, the decimals. So please get used to seeing this, and I hope that you learned a lot about finding percents of a quantity. Please click this link here to watch another video about solving percent problems when we're not trying to find the part, but we're trying to find the whole. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next video.